Today we're going to review writing equations in slope-intercept form, and we're going to be given the information in 4 different ways. You should either get out a piece of paper to write these notes on, or you can write these notes on one of these sheets if you have access to a printer. We'll have the PDF for you to print it out. Okay, so first thing to remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Okay, so in this problem, we were given that the slope is 1/3 and the y-intercept is -5. Now remember, your y-intercept, it could also have been given to you as the point 0, -5, and then you would just use the -5 part. So our equation becomes y equals, and we replace the slope, the m, with the 1/3. The x stays in place. And now we need to add -5. And it's fine if you want to write plus a -5. But it would also be fine if you just wrote y equals 1/3 x minus 5. Here's one for you to try. To find the slope-intercept form for an equation of a line from a graph, I wrote what slope-intercept form looks like, and I have to find the slope and the y-intercept. I always like to find the y-intercept first, so I look at the y-axis, and I try and find where my line crossed it. And in this case, it crosses at -1. So my b is -1. I remember that's like b is where I begin, and I'm crossing the y-axis at the beginning point. To find the slope, I like to find the leftmost point. So in this case, it's right there, that point. And then I first see if I have to go up or down to get to the next point. And I have to go down 2. And then I have to move across or over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because slope is the change in y over the change in x, my slope changed along the y-axis by -2 and along the x-axis horizontally by that 5. So my slope is -2/5. So my equation for this line is y equals -2/5 x minus 1, or plus -1. Now try to find the equation for this line. If you are given a point and a slope, that is a perfect situation for using point-slope form. And point-slope form is this one, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, where x1 and y1, x sub 1 and y sub 1 are the x and y coordinates of a point, and m still stands for the slope. So you're only going to be filling things in for y sub 1, m, and x sub 1. So in filling this in, I have y minus my y coordinate. My y coordinate is 3, so I'm going to fill in a 3 there, equals m, m is my slope, so I fill in the -3 there, times x minus the x coordinate, which is -1. But if I'm subtracting -1, remember that's just the same as adding 1. So my equation in point slope form is y minus 3 equals -3 times x plus 1. But if I need to get it into slope-intercept form, I can just do the distributive property. And my problem becomes y minus 3 equals -3x minus 3, because -3 times 1 is -3. And I want to add 3 to both sides, and I get y equals -3x, in this case, plus 0, which is the same as y equals -3x. Here's one for you to try. First, get it into point slope form, and then get it into slope intercept form. Here's another one just like that to try. The only thing different is that this has a slope of -3/4. So when you have to get it into slope intercept form, it might feel a little more challenging to distribute that -3/4, but I'd like you to try it. Okay, the last way we're going to review to find the equation of a line is if you're given 2 points. If you're given 2 points, the first thing you need to do is find the slope. Okay, to find the slope, remember that we need the change in y over the change in x. A lot of people like to make themselves a mini xy table. So they take the x coordinates and put it under x and the y coordinates under y. So remember that the first ones are x's and the second ones are y's. So I would put -4, and -7, 8, and -13. So my y's went down by 6, because to go from -7 to -13 went down. And my x's, they went up by 12. So my slope is negative, I'm going to make this in blue, -6 over +12. And then I can just reduce that fraction. So 6 goes into 12 twice, so this becomes -1 over 2. And you can assign that negative to the 1, or you can just say the whole fraction is negative. Okay, but now we have found the slope. So that goes up in our equation in the spot for m. And for choosing the point, it doesn't matter which one you use. You get the same answer either way. So I think I'm actually going to choose the one that has 2 negative signs in it. I'm going to choose this point because I know that this equation has negatives, so my negatives become positive. So when I plug in the -7 for my y coordinate, that becomes +7 because I was subtracting a negative. And when I fill in the -4 for my x, it becomes minus a -4, which also is plus. So my equation could be y plus 7 equals -1/2 times x plus 4. To get it into slope-intercept form, I'm going to distribute the -1/2. So y plus 7 equals negative half x plus negative half of 4. Well, half of 4 is 2, so negative half of 4 is negative 2. And then I subtract 7 from both sides to get y alone, and I end up with y equals negative 1/2 x. Negative 2 plus negative 7 is negative 9. So y equals negative half x minus 9. Now I'll show that it works the same with the other one. Even if I use this 8 and negative 13 point and plug those values in with the same slope, I end up with the exact same equation. So you can't pick wrong. You just pick one of the points. Here's a problem for you to try. And here's one last problem for you to try. It's the same thing, it just looks a little different. Remember that this is your x coordinate and this is your y coordinate. So this is the same as being given 2 points. Try this one.